Welcome to Podcast This Escape, the podcast where we talk about the escape room we escaped from in the previous episode of this podcast. Eloise, thank you so much for coming on and running a room.
We found your tomatoes.
We found your
You found
tomatoes.
tomatoes. The spaghetti is saved. Great
The
job.
spaghetti is saved. A rug hid ragu.
This was a really interestingly structured one because just the way, I don't know, I'll be interested to know if the playtesters did it in a similar sort of way, but just we got around things. We were finding little answers, things that were clearly key words were being given to us. We didn't know what to do with them, and then partway through went, this is clearly where these go. We now know what we are doing with these words. I still have no idea how this is going to get us tomatoes, but
Yes.
let's see what happens
It was
here.
kind of like, I was just trusting, eventually this will lead to a tomato somewhere. I don't know how, I don't know where the tomatoes are going to be, but I'll trust that eventually there'll be tomatoes. And there were, which is great.
There were. Both of my playtesting groups really latched on once they found the grooves in the floor. They were like, we got to open this up. And then that reveals the 4-letter lock that then sort of funnels everything towards. But since you guys were just like, that's the floor, we'll figure that out later.
Yeah,
It was
we'll get there when we come to. I thought the a rug clue was leading to the floor. And I was like, oh, weird that you let us discover it early. If we were meant to solve for a rug before
And
finding it.
yet, it wasn't until then, feeling like it was leading us towards the rug, that I went, wait, maybe that last magnet-shaped one is to be used here. So somehow...
Yeah, I would have let that or the knives. There was a knife block on the prep table. You could have pried that open as well.
I wondered that, but the fact that there was a circle involved made me not want to go with a knife. A knife doesn't feel like it would be good for prying with circles, even though like the whole rectangle would sort of lift up. But yeah, the circle made me not want to use a knife. It made me want to wait for something that felt more physically appropriate. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I feel like we did do that a couple of times in this room. We looked at things and went, this might be something that we can do. But I think just for the vibes, I'm going to mental image this and see if something vibes with it later, if something reminds me of this. We did that with the pool tables to great effect. That worked exactly the way it was supposed to. And I was definitely doing it with that floor as well.
Yeah.
I
I
think
tried to keep sort of similar things together. So like the beer was with the bar, you know?
Yeah, beer with the bar with the kegs, like it all kind of made sense. The thing, I think the only one there that was interesting is
The only one there
only
that was
one.
no,
interesting.
no, they were all interesting.
Oh.
I mean, from a sequencing kind of puzzle piece connection point of view, was the bar. I really enjoyed getting the kegs to line up for the bar, but I feel like in the end it was the same solution that we had pitched from the beginning, which was like, thing number 1 will be letter number 1, thing number 8 will be letter number 8, and they did end up being those same letters of the word Stone's Throw, with each of
But
the
we got to play with it to make it
so we
real
did it to
confirm
prove
those.
it, but we could, if we had followed our thoughts in the beginning, we could have solved that without going into the
could have
kitchen
potentially
and getting all the
worked.
kegs, which I just think is an interesting
We
one.
could have cracked it. But it's fun to put things on
Yeah.
stools.
Yeah.
I did build sort of like little safeties or just like added, like the kegs. I think a lot of people might not, including a couple of my playtesters, didn't visualize what you guys visualized. Like, oh, this is the number of the tap corresponds to this 6-pack. Like
Sure,
you got
sure.
the math immediately. And like you don't need the word search either. You just need the number
right.
of the letter in each word. But I thought the visuals were just sort of there to like help reinforce the idea of like, okay, this is something you need to be continuing to work with, or there are extra
I
hints
agree.
sort
It
of
pushed
built
us.
in. Yeah.
It absolutely pushed us towards these words. Yeah, I know we're getting these words, but the words themselves have significance that we are going to want to pay attention to.
Word search is
Right.
great as well.
Very
and it means that we
helpful.
don't spend the whole time looking for where we can put murder in or where we
Yes.
can put park
Yeah.
in. So the word search is a great way of, I think that was a really, really lovely idea to basically just be
I
like,
didn't even notice that technically we didn't need it.
no,
Yeah.
but
Certainly
it
didn't.
was both a way to hint the words to help you know what you were looking for. So that I'm just like, I'm looking for a 4-letter word, I'm looking for a 5-letter word. Yeah, but also it really helped us not catch ourselves and be obsessed with these words once we found them, which is a really common problem with escape room stuff. Like when you give someone an answer, you really want people to know what they're going to do with it. And sometimes when people are confused, they'll look really hard. They'll be trying to jam that answer in everywhere. They'll be like, another code, put in ragu, another code, put in ragu, another code, put in ragu. And so this was, I think, a really elegant way to make that super, super smooth.
Thank you.
I wonder, I do wonder, I think that's probably one of the only things that I would change in the room is doing the, I wonder if maybe as a fun bit, like the stools, when you put the correct weight on them, go to random letters in Stone's Throw rather than the associated letter. So that if you tried to solve it the first way, you're like, is 1 going to letter 1? Oh, no, it doesn't go to letter 1. That's kind of weird. It goes to a completely different...
Well, then it's just sort of the choice of what do you want the puzzle to be.
Yeah, I just suppose in this case, it was the only one where I felt like we could have skipped a step. We didn't need to do the kegs at all.
It sounds like we could have. It sounds like we didn't need to. The kegs were there as helpers if we couldn't see it right away.
That's true. It's just a different way to find the answer that you can skip.
There was one that you did skip, changing red rum to murder. You could use the reflective
reflection.
Table. But you knew
true.
that, right? So if you don't know that reference, I didn't want that to be like a barrier if folks don't know the movie.
That's fair. We even sort of said it later when we thought we'd gotten
did.
another MUR, and you went, oh, let's put that in the reflection. And I said, well, that's rum again.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
And it is true. Actually, it's not bad having a puzzle where like there's one element of it that you can skip. Because it kind of, the alternative is either like you feel cool and smart for having been like, I figured that out before the extra hint, which is a perfectly like fine way to be.
Yep.
I think like, as you said before, like that the connection of everything was really nice. Like the things that were related to each other was obvious both in like the structure of the puzzle that connected them, but also their thematic placement in the room. And I think that's a really, again, like really elegant way of keeping everything on track. Like spice goes with recipe, goes with food on plate, beer goes with drink, goes with bar stool. 6 tables around the edge of the room goes with pool table that has 6 holes around the edge of the table. Yep. Like it was a really nice way. Like you could have done it 6 menus on random tables in the middle, right? 6 menus on the long tables, for example. But instead, like they fit in places where there was so many ways to connect them. I thought it was really nicely done. So it really helps drive the experience. And I don't think we ever felt like the reason we left the floor for so long is we still had stuff to do, and we never felt like we were going, oh, what the hell's next? Like, what do we do? What's expected of us now? We always knew what the next thing was expected of us, so we always had something to do. Yeah, which was really great.
That's good. It bodes well for your detectives, whoever they may be.
Well, Maudie is the main character of our story.
Oh, really?
So,
oh, okay.
Yep. So she's our sleuth. For better or for
she
worse.
Couldn't find the tomatoes.
This is just the end. This is before any terrible grisly murders happen, and this was what prompted her to get serious about it.
Yeah, if that 10-year-old fur trapper can find the tomatoes, surely I can solve this murder.
So she got serious. She bootstrapped up. Amazing.
What was your favorite puzzle? Which one did you enjoy the most, or did you feel like was satisfying? At the end.
I felt like I just drew it out because I went, oh, okay, as soon as this is over, I'm going to feel, I feel so good about the fact that I did this. And that was using a magnet to lift up the floor.
Yeah.
I really did. I know, like compared to the ones where we sit down and do a puzzle, it wasn't the puzzliest, but that was definitely the one where I felt like, yeah, who knows how long we could have been sitting here figuring this out.
They were all really nice. I liked doing the bar one just because it kind of had a processy puzzle element to it that was quite fun, and because I felt good about being like, oh great, 5 things, 5 stools, 11 letters, 11 options, different colors, different things. Like all of it just felt like like that's all right, like there right away. I also
liked being able to do the pool table one. I love that we were able to look at it and then go, yeah, maybe we'll see something that reminds us of this. And then we did.
Yes.
That felt great.
Yeah. Pool table
and
was
then
nice.
I appreciate your insistence of,
let's
actually read the menu to see if that helps.
And it does.
It did.
They were all really nice, yeah. I think I enjoyed doing the bar the most.
The bar had the most exciting image associated with it. When we open that image and just goes, oh, look at these drinks lined up. This is puzzly. I feel at home.
I found the puzzle. But yeah, it was really nice.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like there were two things in this room, I think, that we never, or rather, I suppose there's sort of three things, I guess, that we never used.
That we
or
flavoured?
we didn't need for a puzzle, right? One were the two big long tables that were all set, which I don't think we used, which is perfectly fine. They're there because that's what exists in a room. We also had our table covered with the supplies we brought from
The
home,
decorations.
Second foot table.
and the Scream
Scream game.
pinball, which didn't get. Was that a deliberate? Like, was that when you were designing it, you thought, I want there to be objects that are there that aren't puzzles to kind of
because
feel like
these
you're
are
actually
things
searching?
that are in the story. They have to be here.
The community tables are integral to the story.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
I
lovely.
wanted them to make sure that they came. And I thought about, like how you were saying, thought about putting the menus on them, or like, should I integrate them into the puzzle themselves? But I don't know. I couldn't either. I just couldn't think of it a way where they would be used.
When it comes to
appropriately.
something like tables, it's the biggest pain.
Yeah, or like I didn't want to just create more puzzles. Like you have to solve more
Yeah.
words. I felt like 4 was a appropriate.
I agree.
amount
I think
for the
that's
game
fair.
length, so
And you know what? Now it gets left with our listeners get to go, why the hell would tables be integral to the story? And then we have to find out.
yeah, the bar, a lot happens in this bar, and so we see it a
Amazing.
lot in the story. The Scream game came out of one of my playtests. They had a hard time associating the prep table with the reflection, and red rum, they didn't know the shining to automatically turn that into murder, and so they were really fixated on the arcade games because the cross light puzzle was there, so they were like really thinking that it was contained. And I did want, should you guys have gotten really stuck, the black kind of like, it's a black mirror, a dark screen. I could have like used that as a hint that they see their reflection.
So it's
that's
another source of
interesting.
reflection that's within that area.
Right.
Yeah, that
Scream
works.
was just horror movie. I thought like
it'd
all
fit with
3
the other
horror
two.
movies would be fun.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, just having another blank thing as a game master to have in my back pocket. So
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
third game.
Yeah, it's lovely. And what about you? When you from a design perspective and like writing it, did you have a favorite puzzle? Do you have something in this room that you're most like, yeah, I love that. That's cool.
I thought the pool table to menu pipeline was like a fun visual puzzle, which I know is kind of tough sometimes on audio podcasts, but using the pool balls and like orienting the table, which you guys did, like you automatically got that. I thought that was just like, that was like a fun one to design.
It was. It looked great. Like good work on the visual stuff.
Thank you.
Everything looked
and
pretty.
so that one was great. The hardest one, the bar, for the first time I tested it, was the glass levels were filled to varying degrees instead of filled with different things, and differentiating that clearly. It was just like a really muddy solution. I needed to make that a lot clearer. So that's where we got the different taps with all the different sort of like various loosely color themed.
Fair enough.
drinks.
Now, to be clear,
absinthe on tap.
Yeah, just as one of these things of being not a drinker. What was it? Violet Nightmare? Is that real?
I made it up. It might be real, but no. A couple of those are not real.
Okay.
And definitely not on tap in the bar at the story. That's purely
Gotcha.
for this escape room version. Absolutely.
Nice.
I think I'm relieved.
Yeah. But no, it worked out really nicely.
Yep, it's neat. It's self-contained. I've been it. It's really hard. It's harder than people anticipate to come up with a room in a space like this where, let's be real, most of the stuff that exists in these spaces is a bunch of tables and benches. How do you make them interesting? So, like, well done for succeeding at that. Because it's a real pain.
I know, I'm sure I sympathize with all the rooms that you build, because it was hard to take a real, I mean, it's fiction, obviously it's in my brain, but the story is written there. People will have a frame of reference for what this room looks like reading the story. And I did want there to be some truth or like integrity to the gamified version of it. So it was hard, instead of just like creating a room specifically for game purposes to kind of take an existing room and gamify it.
That's
It's
very
a little
fair.
challenging, but
It meant that
kinda
you
fun.
had to stick to not necessarily reality, but groundedness a whole lot more than we're ever forced to. Because
Yeah, like I didn't want to just leave out all tables in a bar for you
exactly.
guys, you know?
And
Like
you
that's
can't
just
just say,
yeah.
this is the town donkey, right?
Yeah.
Just for now, it won't stay forever. It'll stop being the town donkey in 2 weeks.
I know who's
So don't worry if you don't see it in the book.
doesn't appear in the book because he has a terrible run-in with one 10-year-old trapper. Poor town donkey. No, it was a really nice setting, and I think you had good restraint in not, as you say, like there are tables. Oh, should I gamify them? Should I add another puzzle? Oh, there's a stove and an oven because obviously there has to be in a kitchen. Do I gamify them? Do I add another puzzle? And I think that was nicely the right balance. Right? Well, it didn't feel like okay, there's more and more
It
and
did
more.
feel like the right amount of stuff was going
Yeah,
on.
or the alternative, like everything is a puzzle and therefore it's quite sparse. And it's like, yeah, this kitchen doesn't have a stove, I guess. Like they don't cook in this kitchen. Like, no, you need them there. So I think that you didn't fall into any like traps in design. I think that are easy to fall into.
The other thing that we're seeing in here is we've seen and done a handful of rooms now, and like real puzzle games as well, that will have things like a pool table. A pool table is a reasonably classic thing to have in a game like this, often not in a real world escape room because they're too easily messed around with.
Yeah.
And so like any puzzles that come out of it may not be maintained as people just shove balls everywhere.
and throw pool balls across
Yep.
the room at each other and
Always fun.
injure each other.
But yeah, so we have ones like this where we've definitely seen pool tables before. We've used pool tables before. Even things like fridge magnets. Obviously, we've done puzzles with fridge magnets before. And it's still so much fun knowing that it doesn't matter if you've seen a fridge magnet puzzle before. This is a different fridge magnet puzzle.
Yes. Yeah, nothing. Even obviously, a lot of the physical things were the same objects, but it felt like fresh puzzles. Which was great.
Exactly. And I love that. That's what's so exciting about doing so many of these. That just I've said this before, it's like you're just playing a co-op game with a creator and learning about them and appreciating what they do and what they've put together more than just cracking a puzzle in isolation.
Yeah,
that's nice.
That's really cool. That's glad to hear. And I think the vibe of the story is definitely, there's some like nostalgia to it, right? Like
Agreed.
You're supposed to sort of feel like you know this place, and this bar is like any kind of divey bar that anyone's walked into.
Your intro absolutely gave us that feel. So that definitely worked.
And I think the puzzles are kind of the same, right? Like they're using things that you know that are like like you said, a classic escape room sort of things.
Yeah, and even honestly, the fact that there were a couple of things in the room that we didn't use, I think contributes to that feel. It's, no, this is the normal stuff. You put this stuff here. So obviously it's not a puzzle and things like that. It does make you feel a little bit more connected as a character.
Yes. Yeah, yes. That's true.
Interesting.
Not just stuff that's there because that should be in the room, but the stuff that came from us.
That too,
I like that. That's, it was
all
put
your
there.
scarves and pelts.
Exactly. That was the decision.
Hey, I didn't make that decision, Danny. That was all you. Before we started recording, you said no matter what, you have to be a 10-year-old pelt man in this. And I was like, that seems ridiculous.
I was being very honest about the scarves. That would definitely be my first thought if I had to panic come up with some party decorations.
You'd hang
just
all these
from stuff that's in the apartment.
I love it.
Has anything else? I know we talked about the drinks changing a little bit from levels to colors. Has anything else changed in particular as you've run through it a couple of times?
Yes, the notebook on the prep counter was a new addition. So that puzzle originally had the spices that were out of order were a little more they were a little more distinct from one another, and then after you taste or smelled the plates,
you could just like tell which ones were fruity and organize them yourself.
Kind of. That was my train of thought. It was like, of the ones out of order, there's really only one fruity one, and so it was up to you to say that kiwi was fruity.
That
was just challenging.
That's
People
definitely
didn't-
challenging.
Yeah, that didn't work. So that's when I gave, okay, let's just have Eli categorize these things. And then you're just picking out, the categories, which one of those is the one that's out of order. And you're just matching that
You're
up.
right.
So-
It would have been a very different type of challenge to be trying to categorize them myself. And I don't know how much I would have trusted myself.
No, it's too hard. It was too hard. This room in general started off way harder than it is now.
Yes.
And I think I just generally
I've heard so
putting
many
in-
escape room creators say that that's how it starts and it always has to be pared down and things have to be shaved off or added.
Yes, exactly. Lots of little hints built in.
But it's also
I
so
think it's
interesting
fun.
to
Why doesn't
see.
your brain work exactly the same way mine worked when I came up with this?
Right.
But it's also interesting to see like how the form of a puzzle can change, like how you interact with it as a player. Because
Yeah,
like
that's
when it's just there, you have a list of the ones that are out of order, and which one of these is kind of fruity and which one is kind of spicy. That's a much harder puzzle, but it's less prone to the sorts of things that caught us up, which was we have a whole list of fruity things. We know one's out of order. Let's write all the fruity things. Let's write all the... And so, like, we invent our own new red herrings based on the structure of the puzzle. When it's a list of things that has sublists, we're going to alphabetize all the sublists and write them all out and see how they make sense, because we know each corresponds to a letter, and maybe the sublists are important, but they're not. But so it's... Well, I think, Danny, you talk about this a lot. It's like, you don't need to add red herrings to rooms. People find their own.
Oh,
People figure that
absolutely.
out. And that was us
Yeah.
being like, we've got lists on lists. Maybe the lists are relevant. We can list all the lists and put them all together. And that was just like, no, this was just to make it easier for you later on. Like, you don't know, but I would have asked you if it was
Can't
just
you see
fruity.
how I'm helping you?
I'm helping. Yeah. And of course, yeah, that was the one where in the episode we encountered the tiny little remaining uncaught error of two of there being quints still out of place in one of these lists,
that was
which is
from a relic.
absolutely
My
the
bad.
same type of error that we make all the time, which is when you're going through them, like you check that the one that is correct, and then you don't go,
Yes.
but is there, wait, if I keep going, is there also an incorrect one on this list, or is there an...
It's
That's
why
so
logic
easy to
puzzles are
miss.
so hard to write.
That is the
Yeah.
one that we will most commonly find in our rooms, even after playtesting, and be like, oh, wait, that one's still there.
But
You never know
fortunately,
until someone finds it. You'll never find it yourself.
typically, I don't know in this case, because like this is one that needs to be very carefully organized, but these are the sorts of things that are also very easy to correct usually. So for next time it gets played, not gonna happen. But
Yeah, for
just
sure.
making sure that no, I've got to put the Q in the Q space, so I've just got to move the R somewhere else that doesn't screw up anything. Oh my
Yeah.
god, that's good luck.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what happened. I've fiddled around with these
Yeah.
between each test, right? Like just something else changes, or then adding the notebook, then like kind of rearrange which ones to pick. And yeah, I think that just flew
it's
under
so
the
hard.
radar, unfortunately.
I remember exactly that end of last year with my pool table puzzle that I put in an episode, where it was very the configuration of where the balls sat on the table had to be very specific in order to make this work. And so if I would just select one and drag it up like 8 pixels, then I'd say, Billy, come over, pretend you have never seen this puzzle before, start at the beginning.
Does it work?
Is everything okay?
Yeah. Yeah,
'Cause
you
you
move
never
one
know.
thing thinking it's only going to affect this, and you're like, wait, doesn't that affect 8 other things? Ah!
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's the hardest thing. Well,
But that's why we do it in this format, where the game master is still there. The game master has control and can work with these things, because nothing broke, nothing went wrong with us. We realized, I don't think this Q is part of the word we're trying to figure out. Maybe we can just ignore that one for the moment. And it was fine.
Yeah, you got it.
oh yeah, look, we had a huge amount of fun playing it. Thank you so much for coming on and running this room for us. Before we wrap things up, if people wanted to go and find your debut novel,
And we definitely will be.
and as will we, do you want to let people know where they can find it? How to read Off the Beaten Path, or whether they should just Google Off the Beaten Path?
Yeah, probably the easiest way would just be to go to my website, which would be eloisecorvo.com. But it will be available in paperback, ebook, and audiobook in all major retailers. So Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com will be like two very reliable places, regardless of where you are, that you should be able to find it. And hopefully your local bookstore. We're going to be, at least here in the States, we're going to be trying to get some indie support local bookstores to carry it as well.
Wonderful. Well, yeah, everybody, if you should check it out. It sounds like it'll be a lot of fun. Maybe you'll even find a secret little 10-year-old trapper in there. You won't. He's not in the book. Please, you wouldn't want to read it if he was in it.
Have you written
anyway.
Have you written the dedication yet?
All that's locked in, but hey, we have three books total, so maybe book 2.
That's fantastic. That's really exciting for you. I'm so happy.
Yeah, I hope it all works out incredibly
so
well. I think people will really enjoy it. It sounds like it'll be a lot of fun. So if you are listening, go and check it out. If you need a new book to read, I think it'll be a lot of fun. If you enjoy our shows, it seems like you'll very much enjoy this book. And if you want to keep supporting it, if you do like our shows, thank you for listening. If you want to help support us, just tell a friend, tell anybody you see. Go to a local independent bookstore and say you should have Escape This Podcast in this bookstore, and they'll say that's not how bookstores work, but that maybe they'll listen to the show. You can also support the show on Patreon. That is how we make all the money through the show. We don't run ads. We don't do anything else like that. We are supported by listeners who want to see more of the stuff that we make. Anybody who supports us at any level can appear as an NPC in one of Danny's rooms. We also have extra audio. There's at least a weekly show for $5 donors, often more, of behind-the-scenes stuff, of us recording playtests, of us playing other weird murder mysteries and reading through Encyclopedia Brown books and doing cryptic crosswords and a whole bunch of other fun stuff. There's monthly videos for our $10 donors. There is monthly trivia for our $20 donors. And it's a wonderful place to be and to hang out and to help support art that you think should be in the world. So thank you so much to everyone who supports us on Patreon. And if you sign up, thanks to you as well. Mm-hmm. All right.
Oh, and one little special, just little bonus mention. Eloise, we're not the only ones who are playing this room, are we?
Oh, yeah. If you want to hear
You're
a bunch
not.
of losers try and compete with us.
My only question to you, Billy first.
Yes?
Do you think they're going to be magnet people or knife people?
This is the Infinite Escape Room. And they are big old knife people. They love to knife everything. All they do is knife and knife.
They might
and
be
knife.
all over those magnets.
Nah, in Infinite Escape, they don't have magnets in the UK. People just stab knives into their fridges.
I don't think we're allowed to make a UK knife joke.
Well, I've done it now. I think they'll do super well, but they'll spend 20 minutes trying to figure out how to use that scream pinball. The fools, they don't know how to be clued into what's in the environment, what's a puzzle. They think escape rooms are infinite, so they think it must be part of the room.
Point,
How else can it be? I don't know when they're going to release that episode. It may have been out for weeks, or it may not come out for months. Who knows? But check it out. You might be able to find the Infinite Escape Room also playing through this same room if you want to see how other people have a crack at these puzzles.
I think it's great having a good side by side. I think that more people should do that. I think that we should do that. If I run out of ideas,
we'll just start re-recording all of our rooms with new guests.
Exactly.
Nice. That sounds fun.
Honestly, it kind of does.
All right, lovely. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Eloise.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And thank you so much for listening at home. Bye, everybody.